And the blooms just keep on coming in the plant room. So join me today with a tasty beverage close to hand while we take a look at 4 more bloomers and a newbie. And a spoiler alert, they're not all Hoyas this week. But if you're a Hoya fan, stick around because you won't be disappointed anyway. And now, let's get off to, they're over here, to the first plant. And the first one up this week was known as hoyaspchickenfarm, and you gotta love a name like that. It's now been synonymized with finlaysonii, which is fine with me. It's a beautiful plant. I really like this one. I first saw it, well, I'd heard about it. You know, you see something hoyaspchickenfarm and you think, did they misspell parm? What's going on? I don't get it. It's from Sabah in Borneo and was supposedly first seen recorded on a chicken farm, hence the name. It is a stunning Hoya. Hopefully, I'm hiding enough of my face that the camera will focus. Hiding my face would probably be a good thing. My number of subscribers would probably go up. But I first saw this on Wild Fern's channel. She had a species chicken farm, and I saw the leaves, and it's like, it's my refrain. I need one of those. And today, literally today, for the first time, am I covering enough of me? It bloomed. And it's just beautiful. It's such a beautiful little bloom. Now I can't really notice any scent. I'm just very thrilled that it's bloomed. It's growing like a weed. And I'm all kinds of happy about that. This is the best performing finlaysonii in my collection. And it's beautiful. The leaves are just, we'll flash those one more time because that's just beautiful. So I'm very happy that it's blooming. The reflexive corollas change from a yellow to a reddish brown. The coronas are pretty white. It seems to be putting out a fair amount of nectar. I mean, what you would expect. Hopefully it's not going to be real messy because, well, I'll deal with that. This is just beautiful. Very happy it's blooming. As I said, it's grown better than any of the other finlaysoniis in my collection, which is 3 now. The regular finlaysonii, you heard me talk about it, it's just not, it's just sitting there with its 4 leaves staring at me like it has been for too long. And I got the wide leaf, but this one, if I'm going to recommend a finlaysonii, one to search out and add to your collection, this is it. This is hoyafinlaysoniichickenfarm. And the next guy up today is this hoyamerrillii. The first time I saw one of these leaves, I decided I needed one of these. Very pretty. So I ordered what essentially was a 2-leaf cutting at the time. And was not disappointed when it showed up. It's got really pretty markings. You know, the leaves are a paler green with very nice lighter veins. And as soon as this got settled in, it's just been a grow puppy. I mean, this has done really well for me. It's given me no problems, no issues. And then today, it too started blooming. Hopefully I'm able to get that. There'll be pretty pictures as always. Actually, they'll probably be over here, but beautiful, beautiful pale yellowish blossoms. It's interesting, not all of the blossoms on this peduncle have opened. And there's another peduncle down inside here, which you probably won't be able to see because it's growing in the worst possible location. The peduncles themselves are very short, so I probably didn't even realize that there was one there. But it's trying its darndest. So this has just been a great grower. Beautiful, beautiful leaves. It's going to want, if the leaves get stuck, like occasionally, like this one got stuck in the trellis, they'll have a somewhat strange shape, but the leaves are beautiful. They're nice and firm. They're glossy on the top, smooth. There might be some, no, they're smooth on the underside as well, at least on this one. And it's just grown for me. There's the original plant. It's put out the first vine. It's put out a second vine. The original vine has put out another one and another one. This has been a very, very good grower. I like this plant. If you're looking for something that's not quite a big leaf, but a little bit bigger than your typical Hoya, which is, I think, why I ended up ordering it in the first place, then this may be a good suggestion for you. It bloomed for me right away. Within the first 6 months, I'm going to say, it bloomed. So if you're looking for something that kind of fills that intermediate leaf size and that will bloom for you, and that's not a prissy little, this may be a good suggestion. This is Hoyamerrillii. This next Hoya, I put off getting one for a long time. The pictures I saw online were really neat. It was very different than everything else. But when I would see them in the store, they looked like hell. And my feeling was, why would I buy a plant that looks like it's about to die? But I finally, it's going to take a little balancing here, finally bit the bullet and bought a hoyaretusa. Now, if you run into the same situation where you see them in the store and you think, man, why would I buy that? I hear you. I understand. But they're easily salvaged. They're easily brought back. And this one, maybe I can get it to focus. I don't know. Let's see if I stay behind it. It may focus. This one has always done well for me. When I brought it home, it was kind of in a, the typical nursery kind of potting soil, good rooting stuff, heavy on peat and perlite. And at the time I was growing Hoyas in bark and sag. So I think I rinsed off as much of the peat and perlite as I could and settled it into a 4-inch net pot, because it was a small plant. Settled it into a 4-inch net pot with bark and sphagnum. And it did okay. And once it got established, it started growing, and it was a nice little plant. But it seemed like it was, at a certain point, it was always dry. And it had grown to the point where it needed something more. You know, the little 4-inch net pot with bark and sphagnum was just not cutting it. So I made the call and decided to up pot it to a 6-inch self-watering pot. And it's in a mix of bark and sphagnum, and there's probably some cocoa husks in there and probably some pumice as well, just looking at what I see in there. Yeah, I mean, I'm really, really happy with how it's growing. It's growing like a weed. Everyone, when you look at this, you think, oh yeah, trailing plant. No, it's actually a climber. It would probably prefer to climb. It is reaching out and grabbing on to everything, including itself. There are, vines wrapped around vines. And this week, it started to get into blooming. And there's single blooms. I'm gonna hide behind the pot again. Single blooms. They're very beautiful, very simple. It's kind of an ivory corolla. I was right the first time. See, I second guessed myself and went off. So an ivory corolla and a purple, deep purple corona. They remind me a bit of hoyamerrillii blossoms. They're very, very simple, very pretty, and they show up. There's like 3 down here. There's another peduncle over here. There's another one in bloom here. Bloom here, peduncle. So they'll show up randomly. At least that's been my experience so far, all over the plant. This is one of those plants that when your friends ask you about, what's so, they've just been getting into everybody's business, everywhere. When your friends ask you what's so special about Hoyas or what makes them interesting, you can point to your carnosa and your finlaysonii and to this retusa and tell them they're all in the same plant family. These are all the same genus, which is, that's a good way of impressing them. Well, none of my friends are impressed by my Hoyas. They nod politely and they, oh, isn't that beautiful? And I appreciate that, but if you want to impress somebody, show them the variety. And hoyaretusa is a good way to go. It likes its moisture. It's not under the grow lights. It's just off to the side. So it's in the fallout. It's on a low table in the plant room, probably 2 feet off the floor. And when I set it there, it wasn't even close to the floor. And now it's down there. And these vines are reaching like 2 and 3 feet away and grabbing onto stuff. I'm going to have to find a higher place for it. I think I have one in mind. I think I may need to move one of my bellas, but and this could go in that spot. But if you see a retusa in a nursery or a plant shop and it's looking a little worse for wear, it will respond to your care, to your ministrations, and will produce something really, really, really unique. I like this Hoya. It's just so weird. It's just so weird. This is hoyaretusa. The next plant up is the one that's not a Hoya. This is Dischidiaruscifolia. And it's a Hoya cousin. I got this, well, I first saw it, I think on Summer Rayne Oakes' channel. I think it was part of her 365 Days of Plants, which is a really interesting series. And if you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out. And I thought, that's kind of neat. It's a Hoya cousin. Let's see what we can do with this. Let's find out about this. So it's really neat. I hope that's focusing. I hope you're getting to see this. Tiny little heart-shaped, or spades from the deck of cards, that suit, they remind me of that. This one, again, this particular plant came from early on in my Hoya days. And again, it was like planted in potting soil and cactus mix. And that's not what this plant wanted at all. And so once I remembered that it was an epiphyte, then I started giving it more what it wanted. And I had it in a net pot in bark and sphagnum, and it did well. No issues at all. But then about a month or two ago, I noticed it's all up in itself. Later, I noticed that the leaves were a little wrinkled consistently, and I thought, okay, it's just not getting enough moisture. The bark and sphagnum, the 4-inch bark and sphagnum pot was not cutting it. So I, again, made the call. I moved it to a 6-inch self-watering pot with, this is cocoa husk and pumice and some sphagnum. And it has just responded. It really likes that. The wrinkling on the leaves has disappeared. So that was the problem. Not enough moisture. There are new growth points, and see if I can find, you probably won't be able to see, but there are blooms. A lot of Dischidia have very, very tiny blossoms. And it's sort of like a bulb on the end, and then they flare out like the end of a trumpet. They're very pretty. This is a wonderful, wonderful trailing plant. And because it's fairly easy to find, stop that. Because it's fairly easy to find, they're not terribly expensive. And if you give it some good conditions, it's just going to produce for you like crazy. I like this plant. I like Dischidia as well as Hoya. Most Dischidia, there's a couple that I've not had good experiences with them, and so we don't, yeah. But the Dischidiaruscifolia, highly recommend this because it's typically inexpensive, typically easy to find, fairly hardy. I mean, I had a bit of a learning curve with this one. It just was waiting for me to catch up. This is a really lovely plant. Very interesting. It looks great trailing. It probably wants to climb, but yeah, that's not happening. And it comes in a variegated variety. How cool is that? So whichever one, and I don't know why. I mean, I've got 2 vines here that are coming in pure white, which is very interesting, but they're drains on the plant. Actually, this one has, this one has the tiniest little bit of variegation there. Because they contribute nothing to the growth of the plant. They don't, they undergo photosynthesis. So they don't produce any food. They just take resources. Whichever one you find interesting. Because I've had people who visited and Some people really love the variegated variety. Some people really love the solid green. I decided I'm not going to have to make that choice. So this is a really good plant to search out. A great addition to your collection. If you don't have a Dischidia, this is a really good introduction. There are some others too that are good to start with, but this is a tough little bugger. This is Dischidiaruscifolia. Juggling all these big plants around, you know? And the last one up today is a newbie. And I know it doesn't look like much right now. But this is Hoyamadulidii. And the reason I ordered it was because I saw a picture of the blossom. And the blossoms are a reflexive corolla, which means they turn, rather than opening, just doing this, and I can't even do what they turn back on themselves. And they're a dark, I heard it referred to as black. It's not quite black, but it's, you know, when you get ripe sweet cherries, that deep, deep reddish, purple, brownish hue, that's the color of the blooms, at least the pictures I've seen, with a gold corona in the center. And it was one of those, oh, I need one of those. I don't have that. So I searched around and found somebody who was selling them at a reasonable price. And when the plant showed up, there were 4 cuttings in the pot. And I was like, I would have been happy with the one. So I picked the 3 big ones and the 3 with new growth and put them together. They're in, pot and self-watering, because they were young enough, I was able to get most, by rinsing, get most of the substrate that they were in, get rid of it, and settled them in. That came with this new vine, which has not really missed a beat. And, excuse me, everybody seems fine with this. There hasn't been any dieback. There's new leaves here. There's a new vine here. So I'm very excited about what this is going to do. This is, again, it's not like anything I have. The leaves are slightly pubescent on the top, very pubescent on the underside. Let's see if I can if that'll focus. I can't see what it's doing, so with luck that you can. So this is the newbie, and fingers crossed it's going to do well. Yeah. Hoyamadulidii. And I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me on this week's end. Please remember to click that thumbs up like button and the subscribe button. They're really important to my channel, and I do appreciate all the clicks. And there are going to be video links over here to a couple of my other videos that you might also enjoy. And I'd like you to enjoy the rest of your week's end.